From the city of brotherly love, this is Shark Bite Biz with David Strausser.
You just arrived to the newest episode of Shark Bite Biz. I'm your rockstar wannabe host, David Strausser, and this is your place to learn how to grow business during complete global chaos. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about becoming fierce. So, who do we have today? None other than Stephanie James. Stephanie James is a seasoned psychotherapist and transformation coach, a dynamic public speaker, published author, and filmmaker. Stephanie James delivers her message in a powerful way to help others find their own internal sparks, break through limiting beliefs, and create an empowered life full of passion and possibility. Her new film, When Sparks Ignite, hosts a highly reputable cast of international thought leaders and change makers. Its powerful message is about how the challenges we can face actually become the match point that ignites something within us that becomes our gift to the world. Currently available on the More You channel on Plex Network. In June 2022, she completed shooting a documentary with an award-winning film crew for a new series called Ignited, with a 7-part Becoming Fierce season for Flex. So hey, without further delay, let's bring Stephanie right the heck on in here.
Business strategy.
Stephanie, welcome to Shark Bite Biz. You, my friend, you just became Shark Bait.
I love it. Thank you for having me here, David.
Oh, no, it's an honor to have you. So we have a tradition on this show. Very first question we ask every single guest. Okay, it doesn't matter how famous or infamous you are. We ask every single person the same thing. What's your background? How'd you get there? You know, what do you do for a living? Basically, in a nutshell, tell us what makes Stephanie Stephanie.
Thank you. Love that question. You know, I could actually just start right here and now because, you know, my brand is the spark. And so a lot of times people are like, what is the spark? And I'm like, that is that essence that's us. And that nothing can put it out. You know, wind can't blow it out. Other people can't affect it, things in the world. And so like our work is, how do we excavate that spark? So that's big to me. And so in all the hats I wear, right now, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a filmmaker, author, professional speaker, and life coach. So I wear lots of hats. And how I became who I am, I mean, how I quote unquote evolved to who I am. You know, it's one of those lifelong things. I didn't plan on being a psychotherapist. I went my first year of college to an art school in LA, sang for, you know, a few rock bands over the years.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You see that Marshall stack behind me?
I noticed that right away.
There you go.
Yeah, I love it. And so, you know, that journey didn't start right away. It was a few years into college. And I would say, you know, truly what helps me and what I'm doing, what really has created that spark in me is I went through really, really tough times as like a 13-year-old kiddo. I had the golden childhood, wonderful, awesome family. I had a dad at 13 years old tell mom, hey, I am in love with someone else. All erupted one big evening in a huge, literally, you know, mom screaming out of the driveway, dad beating on the car, saying, you know, get out.
With me, it's almost opposite situation. So I definitely connect and feel with you there.
Yeah. And it was, you know, so it was like this 180, right? Went from awesome childhood to, oh my God, my whole family split apart. And I had amazing parents, right? But all of a sudden through that process, I'm like, okay, I lost basically my relationship with my dad. Through my stepmom. And without going into drama here, the thing that I think that's important though is like we all go through life and no one gets out unscathed. And so I had my own journey and feeling like super unlovable and angsty teenage years. And that's why, you know, I wanted to sing for those bands and do those things where.
For me, I moved to Mexico when I was 18. That was my escape. It was like, I'm getting the heck out of here. And I moved from Pottsville, Pennsylvania, Coal Country, PA, all the way down to Mexico, lived there for about 15 years. And just coincidence, life has brought me full circle to where I'm back living in Pennsylvania again. So It's kind of crazy.
I love that. It's interesting because we have that in common. Life has brought me full circle. I grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado, moved away for 20 years. And for the last decade, I've been back. And so that's been really cool. And I have to tell you, the pivotal moment for me was in my early 30s. I went to this healing school.
Early 30s. You don't look a day over 30.
I love you. In the mid 50s here, buddy.
Oh my God. You don't have to age yourself publicly, but I swear to God, never would have guessed that.
You are the best. Thank you. Well, and so this has been, 24 years ago, but I go to this cool, healing school in San Francisco. And as I'm walking in, I shake the presenter's hand. And this Dr. Jaffe was his name. And he's out there giving his spiel and says in the middle of it, "Hey, you in the blue coat, I have a message for you."
Yeah, and let me guess, you were wearing a blue coat.
I'm looking around for someone else wearing the blue coat, and I look down, I'm like, crap, I'm the one in the blue coat.
I hate that. I always get called on too.
Oh my God. Well, and so I'm looking and I go, okay. And he's like, "I have a message for you." And he says it. And I am telling you, David, I didn't hear him. I could hear nothing. And he repeats it like 3 times. And by the 3rd time when he said it, all the air conditioning units in the place went on and nobody could hear him. So now everybody's in hysterics. And he's like, "My dear, come up here. Come up here on stage." He's like, "Because you are so resistant to this message." And when I finally get up there, he's like, "Okay, here it is. What you need to hear is stop trying. Stop trying." He's like, "You've been trying your whole life." This man I just met, but he has this insight. He's like, "You've been trying your whole life to be perfect for your dad. Now you're trying to do it for your husband. Stop trying." And it was this pivotal moment in my life where I went, oh my God, I've been trying my whole life to earn love outside of me. And it's actually an inside job. So that changed the trajectory of my life.
And that's actually kind of amazing that you brought it up, because I'm not going to air any personal drama of mine to that degree on air, but I'll tell you off air for a good discussion. But that resonates with me with my current situation as well too. So that makes a lot of sense, and I really, it resonates with me, and I feel it, and it's weird because a lot of similarities there as far as different paths, career changes, all that stuff, but I love it. So keep going. Let's hear the rest of this story.
Thank you. Yeah. So I love it. And I love the resonance, because I think it's important, because a lot of times when people like yourself, it's when people have success or they're quasi famous, whatever that is, people go, "Oh, well, life is so good." And, we all are going to have difficulties and challenges. And the thing I think is important is that we can look at those and go, those can actually become the match point that ignites something within us that can then become our gift to the world. So yeah, fast forward. I would say the last 5 years, I always tell people life begins at 50.
Oh, we're still on your intro?
Well, I didn't know.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So the last 5 years, I always tell people life begins at 50. I know life begins at every age we're at, but my life exploded at 50 in the best, amazing way. And that's when I started my podcast. That's when my first book came out. And that's when I filmed my first film that's literally playing on Plex Network right now on the More You channel, When Sparks Ignite.
That's amazing. In fact, I think usually I put the person's name on each YouTube thumbnail, and then I will put down the company they represent, like recruiter.com or whatever it may be. For you, I'm just going to put Stephanie James, everything, because you do everything.
You are so funny. That's awesome.
Let's talk about something that you brought up earlier about being fierce. What does it mean to become fierce?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think becoming fierce, when I looked up the word in the dictionary. What's interesting is that people, they hear the word fierce and they're like, oh, ferocious or aggressive. And literally what I love about it is it's about being fiery, and like living with purpose. And for me, living fully ignited in your authenticity. So for me, when that happened, and I have to tell you too, quickly, I feel like, I'm blabbing here about myself, but that's the purpose.
That's the purpose of this show, so that guests can learn about you, your expertise, who you are. So this is all about you, Stephanie. Go for it.
Well, I love it. Well, and it makes me laugh because I'm usually the one on the other side of the mic, so to speak, right?
I know, it's so hard, isn't it? Whenever I do interviews, it's like, they'll be like, this isn't your show, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, know my role. I'll shut up.
No, but that's totally what I'm experiencing right now. I would tell you, though, so a few years ago, I was being interviewed on my first book. My first book is called The Spark, Igniting Your Best Life. And I was on Karen Curry Parker's podcast, Quantum Conversations. And towards the end of the interview, she says to me, so what's next for you? What are you thinking of? And I said, well, I feel like I have a new book coming through because I'm stopping at stoplights. I'm writing on scraps of paper, little ideas. Something's happening. So we get done with the interview and she says to me, I have a business partner and we own a publishing company and we'd like to publish your next book.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was so incredible. And so she says, I'm going to introduce you to her and you guys can jump on a Zoom call.
Isn't it crazy though, how those things just kind of organically line up sometimes in life to where it's like, I can't believe this, like it just so weird. It's just one of those organic things that kind of just blows your mind. Like, wow, thank God I did this and that I was there, because if not, I would have lost out on a huge opportunity.
Totally. I mean, serendipity, right, is phenomenal, and how these things really do line up in everyone's life. I mean, if people notice, serendipity showed up over and over again. And when I met Michelle Vandepass the next day, her co-business partner, I'm telling her kind of my story. And she goes, oh my God, Stephanie. She's like, you are fierce. You are fierce. And right then it dropped in. I'm like, oh my God, the title of this book is Becoming Fierce. And ironically, one of the chapters is called What Serendipity Got to Do with It.
There you go. That's cool. So, okay, you explained kind of what it means to be fierce. Now, again, this is a business podcast. So how does that serve us in the business community becoming fierce?
Yeah, because I think oftentimes what happens is that part of what Becoming Fierce talks about is finding our voices, having your own voice, communication. There's a chapter on healing the gap between us. We've got it. And one is about how to take your power, understanding your relationship with power. Because oftentimes it's not that we're so much in our big ego, like I'm better than you. A lot of times we're in that small ego that says I'm not enough. And so, becoming fierce, and especially in business, I think these are essential qualities. We're not going to be successful in business if we're playing small. We're not going to be successful in business if we don't have
go big or go home.
Heck yeah, that's right. So we've got to be able, and again, it's not an ego thing. It's literally cultivating, number one, an inner relationship with yourself. And I really refer to it as befriending yourself. And it's, we all hear that old cliche, oh, just love yourself, be your own best friend. But we all know it's not that easy. But if we want to be successful, it's got to start right there. Again, it's that inside job, right? So it's how do you begin to excavate that authentic you? And I really feel like it's the most important journey that we can take, establishing our own voice, having that relationship with ourselves, having good communication skills, knowing how to build community. And so we show up in our fierceness. Now, our fierceness, ironically, too, is also sometimes having the courage to be vulnerable, right? It's people hide it so well. It doesn't take a lot of bravery to hide where you feel vulnerable.
It's not, okay, so for me, I don't know if I agree with the feeling vulnerable more than I think it would be empathetic is what I would say for me personally. I'm putting my guard down not because I'm trying to be vulnerable, but I'm trying to be empathetic to the situation, person, or whatever it may be. So I don't know. Maybe they're synonymous in what we're talking about, but you be the judge of that.
Yeah. I think they are, because when you say empathy, moving into that place of empathy, the moment that we let our guard down, that actually is stepping into vulnerability. It's not that you're there and being the bleeding heart and saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so vulnerable and tell you all my woes. It's that I'm willing to let down the shield and like drop from my head into my heart. That's where empathy lies. That's where true connection lies. And so whether we're making a business deal or whether we're just having a conversation with an employee, or a coworker, those are the things where when we're in that place and out of ego, we're actually listening to what that person has to say. And I call it active listening or open-hearted listening, because we're not listening so we can interrupt them and just say what we think. We're listening so the goal is understanding and connection.
And I think understanding and connection is critical, and it only happens if you listen. One person told me, and I've said this, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 times so far in the show, that God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and to use them proportionately.
I love that. Yeah. So, and it's really, I think, so important. I love this. Harville Hendrix, who's an old psychologist who wrote and wrote and wrote about relationships. When I saw him speak in Boulder at this Summit for Clinical Excellence, he gave this great example of going to this big soiree and this big dinner party, and he was set with this group of people. Now, on purpose, his job, he said, was to listen open-heartedly, to be in that place. So he wasn't telling these, other people anything about himself. He was just listening and reflecting and doing like a mirroring technique, we call it, where you're like listening for content. And then you're going, oh, that must have been amazing, David, when you played that Marshall guitar, or, whatever that is, you're tuning in to the other person. Ironically, he says, when he left that dinner party, people were shaking his hands and these people were just so excited. Like, it was so great to get to know you, and feeling so connected to him. It wasn't because he shared his story. It was because he listened.
Right. So what do you think then truly defines a successful life?
So that is such a great question, because I think a lot of people can look again at the exterior and say, yeah, successful life is I've got all the material goods, I've got fame, fortune, whatever it is on the outside. And I honestly think a successful life is that you are living your authentic path, doing for you what lights you up. We've got a really good friend, and what lights him up, 6 months out of the year, he leads fishing expeditions in Honduras. And then when it's summertime, he comes back to Salida, Colorado, here up in the gorgeous, gorgeous mountains, and hangs out and does that. But he doesn't have a huge house. He doesn't have material things, and he's living his best life, And so I think that's it. We have to look in the mirror at ourselves. Nobody else is in our head.
Just be the best version of you.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that's cliche, right? The best version of us. We hear that all the time. So it's like, what does that mean? And to me, it's really being able, I think we've got to connect with other people. It's about, we're interdependent beings. And yet the number one thing is connecting with ourselves, hearing that internal voice, and listening to our own inner GPS to guide us. And to me, when you have that, I mean, I think when I work with a lot of my clients, we look at like what brings pleasure to your life. Some people that are in that place in their life where they're like, I just retired, or I'm just out of grad school, I can't find a job, whatever that is. And you begin by building, what are the things we know that as you focus on things, it's a principle in physics, what you focus on expands. So really focusing on what is it that makes you feel good. And as you fill your life with those things, you start to feel not only better, you're attracting, I think, more positive things into your life. you're creating more opportunities, you're willing to show up for that job interview, and you all of a sudden are like, wow, I'm doing the things that really bring me joy. And I think when you're living from that place, you're already a success. There's no one outside that can define that for you.
But it's hard for people to get to that place sometimes. What kind of advice do you have for people that are struggling to get there? Maybe they were there and then they got knocked down a few pegs. How do they climb back up that ladder to get back to that successful life?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to start small. You know, we've seen for sure the book, because it was everywhere, Atomic Habits. And really what he's speaking of in that book is small little steps, right? The size of an atom. And so when we've really been knocked down, it's not about flipping a switch and then saying like, oh, my life's fantastic. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, the Instagram life.
Yeah, the Instagram life. Oh my God, right? And so it's about saying, what are the changes I'm going to make today? And little things, little changes. And one of the things that I talk to people about a lot, I call it the 3 C's. And what you're doing is you're just focusing on this 24 hours. Because we have a natural negativity bias in our brain's always scanning for threats, right? And unfortunately, it takes us into the future and we're playing the what if game. What if I never feel better? What if I never get that job? What if it always stays like this? Well, when we bring ourselves to the present moment and really focus not on the regrets of the past, not what happened back there, not ruminating, we bring ourselves right here, we can say, okay, with these 3 C's, how do I want this day to go? And so I have people journal in the morning. The first C is, how do I take care of myself today? And that's not going to look the same every day. Today for me, it was taking a walk through the botanical gardens with my husband and dogs, coming back and getting my coffee on and chatting with a couple authors online. And I mean, it was just this beautiful day. I wanted to take care of myself in those ways that I made sure I exercised, connected with my husband, had time with my dogs. And that's what soothes my soul. The second, thank you. And the second C is then, how do I connect? And especially through the pandemic, as we know, this was like huge because everybody felt so isolated. So, and again, it's just in this 24 hours. And it could be thinking about like, who have I not talked to forever that actually would feel good if I just reached out? You know, I say sending a text is good, doing a phone call even better. And if you can meet that person and go have a cup of coffee, right on. You know, I think each level of connection, we know, again, we're interconnected beings. When people are isolated and people are in nursing homes, the death rate goes up significantly. So, yeah. And the last C being, I love this, how can I be creative today? Which is about going into flow state. And creativity doesn't have to be maybe a musician like yourself. You don't have to write a song. You don't have to write a book. Maybe part of the way that you're creative is you go onto Spotify and you come up with 10 songs that light you up and you send it to somebody, or you just
Gives you a spark.
play it. Yeah, you play it and you dance in the kitchen, you know, and you're like, it doesn't have to be big, but you're putting yourself in a place where you're not concentrating on the what if game. You're not catastrophizing. You're saying, what are the possibilities of this day? And in those places, that's where we can lose ourselves in thought. And honestly, David, it could actually be like taking a walk around the block a different way than you usually go. You know, it's like, I want to carve new neural pathways. I want to do something out of my regular routine. And it's amazing how that stuff begins to build then. You know, I talk about cultivating, and it's like excavating that spark. It might get covered up with circumstances. It might get covered up with situations we're faced with. And we can continue to excavate that by doing these morning routines and daily routines that really are primers for stepping into our day.
Now, with all of that, though, something that you do talk about is really the concept of purge what doesn't serve. So why don't you tell our viewers and listeners out there what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that's essential. And as you said, you know, this is essential in business and this is essential in life. Purging what doesn't serve goes into a lot of different areas. You know, the first area I would invite people to look at is purging the belief systems that don't work for them, the thoughts that don't work for them, are repetitive, over and over,
Negative thoughts.
negative down the rabbit hole thoughts. So what this conversation hopefully is not down the rabbit hole, only down the rabbit hole of exploration. But yeah. So I think what it can really help us do is if we write down, believe it or not, write down what are the thoughts that are limiting you? What are your limiting beliefs? And then really look at that. And then you can systematically start saying, okay, not only am I going to write down affirmations, affirmations aren't enough. It's like, I'm going to write down this affirmation. And under that affirmation, I'm going to put a couple action steps. So I'll give you an example. Like if I'm like, I want to eat nutritionally and be healthy, then underneath that, I'm going to say, okay, so I'm going to make sure that I have this supplement. I'm going to be sure that I'm doing these things in that day so that I'm reinforcing this new belief of I'm a healthy, happy person. I'm someone who eats nutritionally. And I think, so you start doing that and it's a daily thing. So purging the beliefs that don't serve, number one. And then I think it's important to look at what relationships aren't serving you. And this is big because, in Jack Canfield's book, Success Principles, he quotes that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So think about, who are you spending time with? If everyone you're spending time with is sucking your energy, or they're very negative people, or you're like, why am I hanging out with this person? Again, that's a time for you to step into becoming fierce. And it doesn't mean you're a jerk. I talk in the book about how to detach with love, how to create healthy boundaries so that you literally are connecting with people that you're having positive relationships with. And we all have people in our lives that once in a while, they need a hand up or they need that support. Awesome. It's not about that. It's not about perfect people. It's also about connecting.
Nobody's perfect. Everybody needs support. Like I went through rough time recently and, did a few just posts, like reaching out there as far as, I didn't know where to go. It's kind of like analysis paralysis, like, who should I talk to? Who should I trust? Who's even interested or has the bandwidth? So it's like I threw something out there, piece of red meat, and took it down within hours. But within hours, I had probably 300 responses from people that I know and trust. And it was like, okay, now I know who I can confide in order to help guide me through this this situation in my life. And I think that's a healthy thing.
That's so healthy. I love that you did that. I love that you were able to see that people really do show up for you and they really do show up for us. And I think we have to look.
Surprisingly, there were some negative ones. And I'm like, okay, I don't get what your negativity is here, but I don't care. I got what I needed for, so post is being deleted anyways.
I was going to say delete. Yeah, I think we really have to look at relationships. And then the book, The Art of Tidying Up. I think it's The Simple Art of Tidying Up.
I almost thought you were going to say The Art of the Sale. And I'm like, this isn't a political show here.
No. So, but her book, I think it's Maria, I want to say Coy, but that's not correct. Anyway, don't quote me on the title, but the book, which I read so many years ago, literally talks about purging your material things in your home, and I'm not a minimalist by any means, but it's like I do once a season.
I can tell by your background.
Oh, well, thank you. we live in a cozy little bungalow. We really are in a little bungalow and I love it.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you. But it's going through, I went through, and I do go through my closet every season. And and her suggestion was touch your clothes and you say, does this bring me joy? Does this bring me joy? If there's something you haven't worn or you don't feel good in, donate it. I am the biggest thrift store shopper. I love shopping at ARC. And literally for my first time Tuesday, I don't even want this out on the internet, but I went to they have Senior Citizen Day and I would never feel like a senior citizen in a million years, but I'm like, oh my God,
Oh, now that you told us your age, I mean,
there it is, and
AIRP's knocking on your door every day.
well, and it was 50% off. You can't go wrong there. But my point is, we only want to get things, we want to be wearing things that we feel good in. In our house, we don't want a lot of clutter, a lot of junk. Like if I took you on a tour right now, David, I'll love that shirt. And I'm imagining, all the bracelets you're wearing, they're meaningful for you. There's something there. And if I took you on a tour of this room right now, like so much in this room is super meaningful to me. It's not stuff that I'm like, oh, I don't care about this thing. I mean, it really is. And that's one of the ways I live. And I think that's one of the ways when we purge what doesn't serve, everything is energy, right? We've determined that. We know everything's atoms vibrating. You don't want all this cluttered energy in your house. You don't. So again, it's clearing out, for me, David, how I define it is clearing out this conduit that's us. And we got to clean out the cobweb so that we are purging what doesn't serve us. So we're a clearer conduit for more joy, love, success, whatever that is. It's going to come to us more easily if we're purging the things in our life that don't serve us.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So let's wrap up. I got one more question for you. Everybody out there, myself included, face problems professionally. We face problems personally. And yeah, it sucks sometimes, like how do you get to the next level, whether it's in life, personal life or professional life? So what do you think are some of the best ways or best tools that people can use in order to navigate those stormy waters?
I think there's so many tools, but for me, what I find
it's your book, isn't it?
It's get my book, and those stormy waters will be so well navigated. No, and I really do though hope that my book is one of those guides, because at the end of every chapter, I have exercises, things to integrate and assimilate what we talked about into your life. So it's not just an intellectual exercise. You're actually assimilating the stuff into your life. And I know for me that a lot of it goes along with that morning routine and having a mindfulness practice.
And I think a lot of people's morning routines got broke during COVID. I used to have a morning routine, 5 a.m.er, and, I wouldn't have to commute, but it'd be like exercise, take my medicine, things like that. Post social, get all that stuff done for the day, or schedule the post, whatever it was. But I had that routine. And then when COVID hit and we were just trapped, it was almost like, again, the paralysis of not being able to do everything, that it just totally broke every routine I had. I mean, for 8 years, for example, we were on, well, not we, but me, I was on a low carb pizza was my weak point, but it was primarily just a keto diet. And with COVID, yeah, that totally got broken. Just now that I put the self-control back in place to where it's like I'm going back to the keto diet to get where I want to be again physically. There's a little bit missing story there with the guests. I had 7 back surgeries in between and stuff like that too. So I gained weight from the steroids they had me on and stuff like that. But even if I was just eating meat, I still would have gained weight because of the steroids. But now that all that's past me, it's kind of like rebuilding it and getting back into having that morning routine once again. And I think that's very important. I mean, you talk to any Fortune 500 CEO, for example, it's all about their morning routine, and it's critical. It's a building block of life, I believe.
It is. I have so many people, David, that come in and talk to me that have just recently retired. And then they're like, why am I depressed? Well, because they're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people that have lost their jobs, same thing. And just by establishing a morning routine where you know what you're going to do the first few hours of the day, yep. We are so used to being, we're habitual thinkers, we're habitual doers, and really our mind loves routines. And we are so much more successful when we have them. And I think some of the essential things, though, that I want to name as well are having a meditation practice. And it's okay if it's 10 minutes. And if you can't do it on your own, there's so many offerings. There's so many guided meditations, but it's literally where you drop out of trying to create something with your thoughts and you go into stillness. And from there, I am telling you, some of my greatest ideas have come. The idea for my first film came right after a meditation. And I think connecting with nature. And some people are like, well, I live in a city. Well, go outside. The sky is all around you. Look up. Look up.
Yeah.
And
I love that movie, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Me too. And so, and exercising, we know, and like you're saying, eating right. We think those are the things. Maybe doing some breath work. Those are awesome ways to get you into your day. And then I have to tell you, I this week have given like 3 prescriptions, quote unquote prescriptions, to clients to literally, I'm like, your growth work this week is watching comedy as much as possible.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
And I'm a trauma specialist. So 17 years ago, when I was getting trained in all that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be with heavy duty trauma clients all day. And so I would listen to comedy every morning. And so I'd just be laughing my butt off on the way to work. I'm sure people that saw me in the car thought I was nuts. And it didn't matter. I prepped myself. It's really priming, so I'm in an expanded state. And I would also tell people, write a list again. What are your pleasures? They can be simple. They can be very simple, but you start to attune to them. When I wake up in the morning and I open this big picture window blinds, the house floods with light. I take a breath and I notice it and I'm like grateful for it, and we hear a lot about this attitude of gratitude, but the research supports longitudinally. In a 5-year study by Martin Seligman, he said, if you write down 3 gratitudes a day and hold it just for a moment in your heart to marinate on it, it's going to level up your baseline of happiness.
That is amazing. So I guess final question for you that I have is, hey, how can people reach out to you? Where can they find you? Your podcast, your books? Give us all the details right now, please. You're amazing.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, David. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is go to my website, stephaniejames.world. And there's a free gift for you there. Actually, you can get your own printout there's a PDF of the 3 C's. You just put in your name and email and that will come straight to you. And then please, if anybody wants to reach out, they can connect with me. You can send me an email even at stephaniethespark@gmail.com. Also, my books, Igniting Your Best Life, The Spark, and my latest book, Becoming Fierce, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, wherever you get your books, and Plex Network, The More You channel, my film, When Sparks Ignite.
That is amazing. As everybody knows, we will have the link below down to stephaniejames.world so that you'll be able to check out everything she does. She is brilliant. She knows her stuff. Stephanie, thank you for coming on and just being you and really helping people personally and professionally. You totally rock. Thank you again.
Oh, awesome, David. Total honor to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Wow, that was an incredible chat with Stephanie, right? First, you all know the routine. If you found this interview helpful, if it sparked those warm and fuzzies, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. But if you really want to help us out, because you know Shark Bite Biz is the greatest kept secret in the world of small business, please share us out to your friends, your family, your colleagues, anywhere you dwell in the interweb, X, Twitter, whatever the heck it's called these days, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you can. Just help get the word out. Help people like you find out about these awesome professionals like Stephanie James so that way they can grow personally, they can grow professionally, and they can grow their business. Now let's get back to the real rock star of the show, Miss Stephanie James. You heard and watched interviews. So usually during my outros, I kind of give like a little bit of, summary, some of the things that stuck with me during the interview that we did. Today, I'm going to do something different, okay? When I did this interview, I did have some personal issues going on in my life. Stephanie was amazing. I think she kind of realized it when we were chatting afterwards, but she actually gave me some sessions, to help me through the issues that I was going through at the time. And I'm telling you, from my own personal experience, like, this wasn't a normal therapy session. I mean, I've never really heard of a psychotherapist before, like this, to this degree, like what Stephanie does. And it was a new type of therapy, a new type of exercise for me to do. And you know what? It wasn't even good. It was actually amazing. I totally loved it. Just one session with her, and it gave me an experience and some tools that actually really helped me through one of the harder periods of my life that I'm still working through. But it kind of really equipped me with some tools to think of the positive things and think of positive energy and all that type of stuff. And wow, Stephanie, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, for helping me in my time of need. And, you're just fabulous. You're amazing. And I think people know that just by hearing your interview that you did today. So please do us a favor. Let's pay Stephanie back. Right here, she sent me a copy of her wonderful book, Becoming Fierce, and I think she jotted a little note down in here somewhere for me. But anyways, check out her book, Becoming Fierce. We'll have the link down below. Please help Stephanie out. Check her out. Go to her website, and I'm telling you, you'll probably be as amazed as I was. It was incredible for me. So, question of the day. What do you think of psychotherapy? Leave a comment down below on YouTube. Do you want to be in the show? If so, shoot an email, interviews@sharkbitebiz.com. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you can join the channel, $3 a month. You become a baby shark. And last but not least, you all know this by now, but I'll tell you once again, I'm David Strausser. This is Shark Bite Biz. We'll see you all next episode. Cheers.
You just experienced Shark Bite Biz with David Strausser. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the show to help us spread the word about personal, professional, and business growth. Want to be on the show? Send an email to interviews@sharkbitebiz.com. Reach out for more info. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.